revenue.
How are you?
We should call this meeting in order before month.
Technically revenue. Or do we, no, we charge it everything now. So technically they're all right. Oh, yeah. Oh.
It's got seconds, just a matter of seconds. I don't know how. 3:59 on mine. See if you make it.
Well, it's Maha runs it. Because it
Close.
hadn't been under us. Wasn't
Yeah. Oh, he made it.
school support, I thought.
Hold on. Just 2 seconds.
Well, you haven't joined yet. They came and asked us.
I
and that's
did
how-
like 3 times.
I was here.
There was nothing to
These
join.
guys that-
I'm in.
history. I feel like hockey came and said, will you guys pay for it or school district take it on? I don't know. I'm not positive. No, this was way back then. But I could be mistaken too, because that's happened.
Oh, it's 4 o'clock, I think. I'm kind of rusty. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first item is our pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you read our mission statement?
Marshall Public Schools develops the potential of each learner for success in a changing world.
Thank you. Approval of the meeting, do we have a motion?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Open for discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. It is approved. Public forum, now it's time for the public. Anybody in the public that'd like to approach the board? Okay. Board forum and updates. Anybody have anything they'd like to bring up?
I got one thing from the Service Co-op. They have hired a recruiting specialist that we're going to be part of that program that we approved last month. They hired her last week. Her name is Abby Carlson, and I don't know much about her other than she's really excited to get started and a real go-getter, I guess. Right now, us in Redwood, I think she said YME and Pipestone is seriously looking into it. But us in Redwood are for sure going to be part of the program. So
Excellent.
I don't know when she's starting or what the details are, but she's ready to go.
Good. Anybody else? Referendum update?
Well, you can see that we've got our storyboards arrived today. We're going to continue to work on making a couple updates to these, but these will be available very soon in all of the sites, just kind of laying out the story of the building bond referendum and the work that is being proposed at each of the sites at Parkside, the new elementary school, at the middle school, and at the high school. And then one of them, or two of them, I should say, is sort of the overview of the whole referendum request, more of a general, not building specific. So those, I think, look nice and will help us share information with people. We are getting a lot of requests to give presentations, and we're excited to be able to do that and continue to learn. I think every time we give a presentation about something that we can do to make that presentation even better. So that's been good to get out in front of people and just kind of hear what their thoughts are and different questions that they have. We have a informational mailer that I think is going out tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. This will be the second in a series of at least 4, if not 5, that we're sending out to district residents just to make sure that we're getting all of the information that we can out into their hands. And we talked about doing maybe a 5th one, if you will, which would be more of a pull it all together in a little bit longer document as well. So I think that's in the mix, and we're going to pursue that. Talked talked about the concept boards. We're also utilizing as many of the media outlets as possible to share information. There was, I think, a pretty informative article in The Independent this weekend, and we appreciate them helping us share that information. We'll also be doing different segments and disseminating information on the local access channels and also on the radio. Bruce and I met with our minority advocates last week, and we're reaching out to them to try to figure out how we can get the word out to the parents and the families and the kids that they work with, and looking forward to feedback from them. Tricia, I think, has done an awesome job on the website. I actually had a comment on that today and how helpful and informative that was, so kudos to her for all the work that she has done. So a lot going on. Obviously, we're kind of in the stretch run here, and we're going to continue to hopefully get information out as much as we are able to do so, and make sure that on May 10th, folks understand what they're voting on.
Very good. Any questions?
Scott, could we look at, see if the library would allow us to put the two boards up there?
Bruce and I spoke about that today, and once we have some updates to the boards, I'm going to work with the library to place the boards over there, and then also some information.
Absentee ballots, that process in place?
Absentee ballots, we're going to work with Meals on Wheels to see if we can get some absentee ballot applications out to those people to see if they would be interested in filling out absentee ballots.
But you can come into the district office and fill out an application, correct?
Anybody can come into the office to fill out an application and an absentee ballot. You don't have to prove that you're going to be out of town.
You don't? Marshall Public Schools receives a meritorious budget award. Is that for you, Bruce? Do you have to buy a bigger trophy case, or?
No, I don't think so. We can just put a little recognition
Congratulations
plaque
again
on there. Thank
for you and your staff. Outstanding job. Outstanding.
And we're going to have a luncheon sponsored by Ing coming up, which I believe you folks are invited to attend. If you wish, that would be good.
Well deserved.
Thank you on behalf of the staff.
Now it's time for a second reading of policy 618, 19, 20, and 23. Any questions? Moving on to our action items, we have approval of our 2017 budget enhancement and authorizations to post positions. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And do we have a second? Is open for discussion. I would like to withdraw the 2016-17 Hockey Association's or hockey season projections report. We just got at 3:15 today. I need more time to dissect that. Can we take that out of this?
Absolutely.
I'll need a second on that.
I'll second.
Okay, so we will be voting on this without the agreement for the hockey.
Amendment first, or
Yes, we had to vote on the amendment first, correct. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Now we will vote. Any more discussion on the budget enhancements?
If we can just, and Bruce can sort of help me out a little bit here, but the document that you see in front of you is the result of, I guess, forecasting revenue and expenditures for the 2016-17 school year based on a variety of things that have happened earlier this year, budget parameters and what we were going to build into the budget. Those were approved. All of you worked through an exercise where you identified priorities as we considered potential budget enhancements. We've gathered some input from staff about similar things. Certainly, we have met with the Finance Committee, and they've given us some direction relative to, okay, here's what we anticipate available for funds next year. We do anticipate, because of a variety of factors, one being increasing enrollment, another being increased funding from the state, we do anticipate a budget surplus, if you will, for the 2016-17 school year. Hence, we bring these recommendations forward to you as a package of budget enhancements that we think will best meet probably the highest number of students in the district and address areas that we feel that we have room for growth in. This is also the result of a process that our administrative team worked through, going through and trying to rate each of these items and ones that are not on this list, and a variety of different things, from the number of students that are affected to is the item, I'll say, mandated either locally at the state level or the federal level, and we ultimately get a point system, and then we try to massage that a little bit to come up with a recommended package of enhancements. It's nice to be in a situation, and we're fortunate, where we can look at our needs and say, okay, what can we address, and talk about adding positions and adding programs and staffing. There aren't many districts in the state that have the ability to do that, and many of them are looking at, well, what do we have to cut so that we adversely affect the smallest number of students. So we are in a good position. Admittedly, we can't meet all of the needs that we identified through this process, but I think this package of enhancements, if you will, would move us forward to really doing a better job of meeting the needs of the kids and certainly our staff, and improving our district as well. Bruce, anything that you would add to that discussion?
Well, the only thing that I would add is that in our discussion with the board subcommittee, finance subcommittee, we did talk about the possible utilization of some of our fund balance, and built into this number is about $200,000 into our fund balance that we would utilize to be able to achieve all these budget enhancements.
So then in future years, Bruce, since you're going into that area for funding, how would it look in future years to fund these?
That's one-time money, and so we would, in essence, need to come up with $200,000 for the following year of 17-18, either through increased funding from the state or driven by increased enrollment, or choose to move forward with additional fund balance recognition that we would utilize more fund balance again in the following year. Preference would be to support the ongoing enhancements with additional funding rather than fund balance.
Can I ask, kind of piggybacking off of that, so looking at the social skills teacher at Parkside, if we were to need an increase FTE for kindergarten, say we need an additional class, is that something we would add, or would this person step into?
We would likely need to add that position, Dion. I anticipate the social skills teacher, while they certainly would have an elementary background, would more likely have perhaps a social work or counseling background instead of the primary teaching skills, if you will.
Can you just explain a little bit the social skills teacher position, what it is?
Social skills is been proposed to hire someone who can work with the kindergarten through second grade teachers and help our smallest, obviously elementary, or our smallest learners with certain things like conflict resolution and just appropriate social skills that we're seeing maybe a need to address in our bus behavior. I think we've had quite a few incidents where there's been some youngsters involved in some inappropriate behavior or conduct on the school buses. So we don't have that class, if you will, and we don't have that person who can teach that. So that would be part of the job, working with teachers. And it might start out at one grade, it might be at all three or whatever, but really sort of, as I envision it, developing a curriculum of those types of skills. The other part of the time, maybe the other half of the time, they could certainly do things like meet in small groups, friendship type groups. If there's a particular grade that has more challenges with those, again, social skills type things than another, they may focus on different groups of kids, maybe working in groups of 5 or 6 to, again, help them with social skills. We're just seeing some areas in that particular aspect of what takes place at Parkside, and I would say all buildings to some extent, where we feel like it would be helpful to teachers if we found a way to address that, and hopefully that would decrease the number of interruptions in the classroom because those skills are being taught.
And is it because the increased enrollment that our current social worker can't?
Yeah, I think when you have, I believe that we have 540 students who in that building, or give or take, with one administrator and one full-time social worker, and there's just no way to get to all of them. So increasing enrollment has certainly had something to do with that, and not being able to necessarily service the students and get them the education and help them learn these skills when it comes to some things outside the classroom. Yeah.
So ideally, they'd be working with parents too then?
Probably not, Karen. I think the scope of this position would not allow that to happen.
Okay.
And that's more probably something that our early childhood family education, with some expansion in the future, would hopefully be able to build on. They're always a part of the solution. I mean, they need to be. I shouldn't say they always are, but parents always need to be a part of the solution. And would there be parents involved in this particular work done by this particular person? Absolutely, I believe so, but I don't think that would be the focus for us.
Not to stir up, but with the 0.5 dean of students added to that person couldn't take on that role?
Well, I think that there could be some overlap there, Dion, but two things there. One, we're looking at a building that we don't have a lot of staff assigned to it in terms of, I'll say, supervisory or giving kids help outside the classroom, maybe comparable to some of our other sites. So that's a need, and henceforth the dean of students position. Secondly, the social skills teacher is more about just trying to get out in front of some of the trends we're seeing with that particular age group of students. For whatever reason, I haven't identified those. But there certainly would be some overlap there, yes.
Just last question. So the dean of students, if the referendum were to pass, how would that position be handled? Would they stay at Parkside, or would they be split?
I think that's something that, honestly, we've been focusing so much on different aspects of the referendum and the budget that we haven't got to those discussions, but we are not we will find a way to make that work and to morph that position into whatever we need it to. It likely would shift over to the new elementary.
Was there discussion about of these budget priorities and what's in here? And if you didn't have to use the reserve, what things would stay, which ones would go? Is there these ones for sure, these are the other ones we'd like to have in there if we're able to tap into that area? Because it's clearly some risk to do that, for funding for future years.
No, there really wasn't, Kurt. We had a target of $600,000, if you will, and that's what we worked off of. I don't remember the exact number, Bruce. I want to say we had over $1 million in potential budget enhancements.
About $1.2 million.
So we whittle it down to some extent. We don't have the points included on here, but each of these does have a priority point, I guess maybe you would call it. And if that was something you directed us to go back and revise, to a different number, we certainly could do that. But this is what we're recommending right now based on input that we received from the subcommittee.
From a subcommittee perspective, we did look at that, and our fund balance has continued to increase, and so we felt confident that a small dip into that was not going to be a negative long-term effect, especially with the projected enrollment growth. We felt confident that we were not going to see a big decrease in that fund balance by going into it just a little bit.
I do have one more question. I lied. So preschool, we're maxed out right now. With an additional preschool teacher, how is that being handled?
Bruce, you had visited with Tiffany about that, I believe.
We are looking at providing the current gym space, if you want to call it, here at the middle school, dividing that in half. Half it would be classroom, and the other half would remain gym space. So there is going to be a place, but that part of, or that cost would be through the capital outlay process rather than the general fund.
Good questions. Any other questions? Okay, let's see here. We'll call for a vote. It's approved. Next item is approval of our agreement with the Pride of the Tiger Foundation. Do we have a motion? And we need a second.
Second.
Open for discussion.
I'll just note that I'm going to abstain from discussion because I have a conflict of interest with this.
I have a couple questions on this. Have we, there's 2 digital boards in Marshall, and I'm just wondering, have we checked to see with Precision Marketing, is this a good deal? And I'm not saying it's not a good deal, but from a personal perspective, that board has a lot more. It's got more visual. It's just more known, and I'm just wondering, do we even know what the cost is at theirs? With the thought that they're both local, if that was a board from out of town, then I would say no big deal. But because they're both local boards, have we checked with them?
We have not checked with them. We were approached with this partnership agreement and discussed it with a variety of people and felt like it's a really good opportunity. I feel like we're confident that it's a good deal financially, but we did not look into other.
And that happened years ago in athletics, or with Mr. Remy, when we were approached by a company and with a really good deal, and it was a really good deal, and then we kind of had to check things out with everybody in town.
I agree. I think this is a really good deal. I will give kudos to Precision Marketing. They've donated space to some of our athletics, congratulations, or I know for softball, Whopper Night to promote it, it's donated space, so I agree.
And then when you look at the terms and conditions, it says it's our responsibility to provide creative media, and I'm just kind of wondering what kind of costs are going to be to the district from that.
I don't think there will be any extra cost, Karen. From what I understand, there are a number of templates that are already provided for us. I want to say there's maybe half a dozen. I looked at the agreement, and those tend to be sort of just fill in with the information that you want, and obviously choose from the template and color scheme it the way you want, and fill in the information and probably consistently use those. So I don't anticipate any costs for that aspect of things. And then if this were to go forward, we certainly would like to involve a class or classes from the high school who could take some ownership in it with obvious supervision and help their skills contribute to that creativity at some point in time as well. Is that what you're looking for, answer-wise?
Kind of, but the templates, and I just know this from being at the chamber, a template's great out there, but it still takes a lot of time to kind of tweak this and tweak that, and it's still time involved.
There's no doubt there will be time involved, but that will be someone in the district who will be doing that.
We have someone lined up that will do that.
Yeah, she's sitting right next to you, actually, so.
Does she know?
She does now. Thanks, Karen. Wanted to wait until after Administrative Professionals Day, but that didn't work, so.
Had a little extra.
We had a discussion with Bruce Remy in regards to this, with the student involvement, whether it be through a group like BPA or a classroom involvement. And I don't know, I got the impression, I feel quite confident that that is where that help is going to come from. And that'll give practical experience to students, which I think, obviously is a good thing. So, but yeah, it's still going to need to be supervised.
Yeah.
And the timeline kept and making changes and keeping it current, especially with all the activities and things that we have going on. Yeah, that will be a challenge, and it needs to be set up right.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll vote.
I don't know if it's stuck or,
It's right up there. Move it down.
huh?
Move it down. It's right there.
Where?
Go right there. You keep going to the.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's for this, right?
Oh, just
That's for the
vote.
budget.
No, we already voted on that. Just vote.
Is approved. Next item is authorization to submit United Way grant application. Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Open for discussion.
This grant is to help support our minority advocate, one of the positions. I think this would maybe be the fourth year if we're granted the grant. So,
One for good cause. Call for a vote. It is approved. Anything else for the good of the cause?
I would just share, Jeff, that legislatively, there's been a lot of things happening, or to the whole board, not just Jeff, but, sorry. Yeah, the first policy committee deadline was April 1st, so that's a significant date during the legislative session. There's another deadline coming up, I believe, April 8th. So all of these need to be reviewed in committee, all of these proposed bills, and then the next deadline is to have them reviewed in the opposite, either the House or Senate, depending on where the bill came from. So I think what we're going to see is just a real funneling of bills and different things that are moving forward over the course of the next few weeks. And again, I'm sure there'll be a lot of activity at the end of the legislative session. We've heard a lot of talk about the Teacher Shortage Act and how the legislature might be able to help districts with that in terms of loan forgiveness and maybe easing up on licensure requirements, just different ways to get more people involved in education and hopefully becoming candidates for school districts. We've seen quite a bit of talk just recently, actually, about the ESSA and what the Every Student Succeeds Act and what that might mean in Minnesota, and some comparisons with the No Child Left Behind. There's a lot of similarities, but there are also some concerning things that are in there that we're going to really have to keep our eye on as things move forward. So over the course of the next few weeks, we'll ramp up our efforts to keep you informed legislatively. If you're not checking things out on the MREA and MSBA website, they have just some really, really good resources out there. They try to keep it succinct and yet informative. And I don't know if those organizations have reached out to you, but I would say in the last week I've probably had 2 or 3 call your legislators about this bill and different things like that from the Superintendent's Association. So if advocacy is truly a goal that we want to focus on when those opportunities come up, try to find time to reach out to our elected officials and share our story and answer questions for them.
On that, the Finance Committee tomorrow is looking at an additional 1% per pupil increase for next year. So,
And I think that was one of the, didn't the School Boards Association reach out to districts and say, if we got an extra 1% on the formula, how might you utilize that in your district, if I'm not mistaken? So,
Very good. Thank you. Meeting's over.